My name is Ignatius Vane, or rather, it was. Names are for men, and I am something else now. I am the Patriarch of the Navigo House in the Segmentum Solar. I am a mutant, a three-eyed king of the void, and I am perhaps the last man to truly remember the day the galaxy died. This is my chronicle, my confession, my final warning. I am recording this from the cold, metal heart of the Aeterna Pharos, a station that should not exist, broadcasting a signal that is pure heresy. But I have no choice. You who listen to this, you who were born in the dark, you must understand what we lost. You must understand the light we followed. For 10,000 years, my ancestors navigated the Imperium, the Sea of Souls, the Great Nothing, the Warp. We were the threaders of the needle, the pilots of madness, and we did it by his grace. The Emperor's light, the Astronomican. To you, perhaps, it is a myth, a legend your grandfathers told you. But to me, to us, it was everything. You think of it as a lighthouse, a simple beam of light cutting through the dark. You are wrong. It was not sight. It was presence. It was a symphony in a universe of screams. When my third eye, my warp eye, opened, I did not just see the golden light of Terra. I felt it. It was a chorus of 10,000 sacrificed souls, anchored by the divine will of the master of mankind. It was the smell of home. It was the warmth of a fire in an endless freezing night. It was the singular, objective proof that humanity had a God, and he was watching over us. We would plunge our ships into the Imperium, a realm where physics is a lie and thought is reality. We would face the horrors that claw at the hull, the neverborn, and the echoes of damnation. And through it all, we would fix our inner gaze upon that golden, unwavering song. It was our compass, our shield, our sanity. We were arrogant, of course. My house, my peers. We, the Navigators, held the Imperium in our three-eyed grip. Without us, there would be no trade routes, no reinforcements, no crusades. We were the blood in the Imperium's veins. But we were only the blood. The Astronomican was the heart. And then, on the 144th day of the 999th year of the 42nd millennium, the heart stopped. I was on the bridge of my flagship, the Celestial Arbitrator, a Gloriana-class vessel, a relic of the Great Crusade, repurposed for my house. We were charting a vital supply route to the Cadian sector, even as the Great Rift tore the galaxy in two. The warp was agitated. It had been for centuries. The Noctis Aeterna had been a time of blindness, but the light had returned, flickering but present. We had adapted. We thought we were clever. I was standing on the Navigator's dais, my eye wide, bathing in the glorious, complex music of the Emperor's will. The warp currents were treacherous, like rapids over jagged rocks. "Steady, Lord Navigator," my Astropath Primaris, Lyra, whispered into my mind. Her own telepathic presence was a small, fragile light next to the inferno of the Astronomican. The choir feels strained. "It has been strained for a century, Lyra," I replied, my voice a physical rumble in the chamber. "It holds, as we must." I turned my focus back to the song. I was weaving the arbitrator through a particularly vile tide of raw emotion. I could see the shapes of nascent demons breaking against the Geller field, like waves on a beach. Then, it happened. It was not a flicker. It was not a dimming. It was a snap. A soundless, psychic detonation that threw me from my feet. My third eye, my warp eye, was suddenly impossibly blind. But it was not darkness. Darkness is merely the absence of light. This was the void. A cold, screaming, absolute nothing rushed in to fill the space where the Emperor's song had been. The symphony was gone. There was only the scream. On the bridge, every light went red. Alarms shrieked. The arbitrator lunged, thrown from its course like a canoe in a tsunami. Geller field fluctuating, the shipmaster bellowed. Status. Someone give me a status. I clawed my way back to the dais, my body shaking. The pain in my third eye was indescribable. It was the pain of sudden, violent amputation. Lyra, I roared, physically this time. I looked at the astropathic choir. They were not screaming. They were silent. Lyra, the astropath primaris, was still in her chair. Her eyes were wide, empty, and bleeding. She was dead. They were all dead. Their minds, linked so closely to the choir on Terra, had been the first to be obliterated. They were the fuses that blew when the current of a god was cut. Lord Navigator, the shipmaster yelled, his face pale. The light! Where is the light? I need a bearing. I opened my warp eye again. I forced it. I stared into the Imperium. Nothing. No gold, no warmth, no anchor. Just the endless, swirling madness of the warp, now totally, horrifyingly triumphant. The demons at the hull were no longer just waves. They were a tide, rising. Emergency translation, I screamed. Now, by any means. Pull us out. Pull us out. The celestial arbitrator, all 20 kilometers of her, ripped a hole back into real space with the sound of tearing metal and shattered souls. We emerged with a violent lurch that sent half the bridge crew to the floor. We were alive. We were in real space. And we were, for the first time in 10,000 years, completely and utterly lost. For the first hour, there was only confusion. The bridge was a mess of reports. Damage to Deck 14. Plasma conduits ruptured. The Geller field generator was shattered from the stress. We were lucky to be alive. Where are we? I demanded, my voice hoarse. The shipmaster, a man named Hector, stared at his displays. His face was gray. Unknown, Lord. The star charts, they do not match our expected exit vector. Not even close. We are thousands of light years off course. And the fleet? I had been leading a flotilla of 30 vessels. Hector's hands tightened on his console. Nothing. Vox is silent. Long-range augers, nothing. They are gone, my lord. They must have been taken by the tide. Lost. All of them. My mind raced. A solar flare. A warp storm of unprecedented scale. The great rift expanding. No. My eye knew the truth. It was the source. The source was gone. Try the astropaths, I ordered, knowing the answer. My lord, Hector said, not looking at me. They are all gone. every psyker on the ship dead or insane. The silence on the bridge was heavier than a singularity. The crew, veterans of 100 voyages, looked at each other with a new primal fear. The kind of fear a child has when they wake to find their parents gone, their house empty. We limped for 3 days on sublight engines until we found a stable star system. We identified it, the Agrippina sector. But we were meant to be on the other side of the segmentum. We arrived at the primary forge world, and we found a graveyard. Dozens of ships were stranded in high orbit. Some were clearly destroyed, ripped open not by weapons, but by failed Geller fields. They were hollowed-out tombs. Others were dark, drifting. A few were broadcasting. We listened. No light. May the Emperor protect us. We are blind. We are screaming, static. House Vorst. Geller field failure. The things. They are inside. Gunfire. Inhuman roars. Terra. Does anyone read? Terra. There is no. Hector shut it off. We learned the truth from the orbital command. It had happened everywhere simultaneously. Every ship in the warp had been thrown blind. Every astropath had been silenced. The Imperium, in a single moment, had ceased to exist. We were no longer an empire. We were a trillion isolated islands, screaming into a void that would not answer. The days turned into weeks. Agrippina, a fortress world, locked down. No ships left. No ships arrived. The vibrant, bustling trade of the Imperium was over. The flow of tithes, of guardsmen, of holy relics, stopped. The psychological toll was the worst. My fellow navigators on the Arbitrator, those few who survived, did not fare well. Young Silenus, a promising scion, clawed his own third eye from his skull, screaming that the silence was too loud. He died on the Medicae Bay floor. 2 others fell into a catatonia from which they would never wake. I was the Patriarch. I was old. I had seen horrors. But this was not a horror. This was an absence. I would open my eye and find only the howling chaos. I was a king with no kingdom, a pilot with no sky. The sector's governing council convened. The sector lord, a pompous man named Gracchus, was in a state of terrified denial. Terra will restore the light. We must simply wait. We must maintain order. Order, growled a Space Marine captain, the sole survivor of an Ultramarine successor chapter, whose strike cruiser had been one of the dark tombs in orbit. There is no order. My Vox officers picked up signals before they went dark. Orcs on the eastern fringe, sensing weakness, are pushing on a scale not seen in millennia. A hive fleet, once stalled, is now moving, unchecked. And chaos is laughing. What would you have us do, Captain? Sneered Gracchus. We cannot move, we are trapped here. They argued, they panicked, they prayed, but the light did not return. A month passed, then 2. The Imperium was fractured. We were alone. Terra, the center of all things, was now just a word. As isolated as we were, perhaps even destroyed. I left them to their bickering. I retreated to my chambers, to the sanctum navis on my ship. I sat before the ancient charts of the stars. My life's work. It was all meaningless. My duty was to navigate. My purpose was to see the way. If the Emperor's way were gone, I would have to find another. I spent a week in the arbitrator's data vaults. I tore through my family's hidden archives, records kept secret even from the Imperium. The Navigo House had existed before the Emperor. We had navigated the stars by other means in the dark age of technology. How? The records were fragmented, heretical. They spoke of warp beacons, devices that mimicked the Emperor's psychic resonance but on a smaller, cruder scale. Most were Xenos in origin. Many, like the Pharos of Sotha, had been destroyed, deemed too dangerous or heretical by the burgeoning Imperium. I brought my findings to the only other person in the system who might understand, Archmagos Veneratus Vane, the head of the Adeptus Mechanicus on Agrippina. Vane was more machine than man, his face a collection of whirring lenses and vox grills. He did not panic. He processed. I laid the data before him. You are Mechanicus, you hoard technology. Do you know of these? Vane's lenses clicked and whirred. He was silent for a full 10 minutes. Heresy, he finally whirred. This is techno-heresy. The Imperium is dead, Magos, I snarled. Your heresies are all we have left. We are bleeding. The orcs and worse are coming. Without the warp, we will die here. We need a light. Any light. Vane's internal engines hummed. He looked at the data, and I saw a flicker in his optical sensors that I recognized. Ambition. The Mechanicus were trapped too. Their supply lines from Mars were cut. Their power was limited. The warp beacons you speak of, Vane said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. They were not just beacons. They were amplifiers. The Emperor's light overpowered them, but they were based on a more ancient principle, a dangerous one. The Pharos. He confessed. The cult of Mars had its own secret archives. During the Noctis Aeterna, when the Great Rift first opened, some factions of the Mechanicus had begun a desperate search. They had found something. A relic, Vane said. A functional device from the Dark Age. Not Xenos. Human. An Aeterna Pharos. A beacon designed to create a stable, artificial psychic resonance. Where? I demanded. It was lost. Its location was sealed, Vane said. But I have the coordinates. A secret project. A failsafe. In a dead system, deep in the Segmentum Pacificus. The Pacificus, I said aghast. That is halfway across the galaxy, through the thickest part of the rift. To jump blind, it is suicide. Not blind, Vane whirred. He produced a data slate. The device is dormant, but it is not dead. It has a power signature. A hum. So faint, only the most sensitive instruments can detect it. It is not in the warp. It is in real space. He looked at me, his lenses unblinking. You are a navigator. Your ship is one of the fastest in the Imperium. Your Geller field is repairable. But your third eye, can it see this hum? I closed my physical eyes. I opened my warp eye. I pushed past the screaming, past the void. I searched for the coordinates Vane gave me. I searched for this echo, and I found it. It was the faintest thing I had ever sensed. A tiny, cold blue spark in an infinite black ocean. It was not a song. It was a single, sterile, repeating note. I can, I said, my voice shaking. I can see it. Then you have your light, Lord Navigator, Vane said. A new light. The only light. The Sector Lord Gracchus called it madness. The Space Marine captain called it a fool's hope. I didn't care. It was a path. We spent 2 months repairing the Arbitrator. We stripped lesser ships for parts. We took the last functional Geller field generator in the system. Vane and a contingent of his most loyal tech priests came with me. We told the sector we were going to try to reach Terra. It was a lie. We were going to commit heresy on a galactic scale. We were going to build our own god. The journey was a new kind of hell. My previous life as a navigator had been about finesse, reading the currents of the Emperor's light, steering the ship through safe passages. This was brute force. We could not make one jump. It was too far, too dangerous. We had to make a series of short, agonizing hops. I would stare into the void, fix my third eye on that cold blue note, and scream at the ship's engines to jump. We would emerge into real space, battered, the crew screaming, and I would check the bearing, again and again. The warp, without the Emperor's light, was raw. It was a living, malignant ocean. Demons did not just claw at the hull. They spoke to us. They whispered of Terra's fall, of the Emperor's corpse rotting, of the new gods who feasted on our despair. I lived on the dais. I did not eat. I did not sleep. I was bound by cables, fed by tubes. My third eye bled constantly. The strain of using it as an anchor rather than a reader was tearing my mind apart. I was aging. My hair, once black, was now white. My face was a roadmap of burst blood vessels. Hector, my faithful shipmaster, kept the ship running. Vane and his priests chanted in their engine shrines, appeasing the machine spirits that screamed in protest. After the 4th jump, we lost an escort, the frigate Iron Will. Its Geller field failed for just 1 second. It was enough. We heard their vox as we translated out. The sounds. I will not repeat them. After the 7th jump, I collapsed. My heart stopped. Hector revived me. "We must stop, Lord," he begged, his face gaunt. "This will kill you." "If we stop, we die," I whispered, the blood tasting like copper in my mouth. "If we stop, everyone dies. There is no back. There is only forward. One more jump." On the 94th day of our journey, we made the final translation. We emerged into a dead system, a black, cold star. And there, in orbit, was the station, the Aeterna Pharos. It was massive, a ring of black, unknown metal, miles wide, covered in antennae and spires that looked nothing like Imperial design. It was ancient, Dark Age. "Praise the Omnissiah," Vane whispered, his voice trembling with religious ecstasy. We boarded it. The station was cold, silent, and automated. Ancient servitors, long dead, were frozen at their posts. The air was breathable, the gravity stable. The power core, a singularity contained in a glowing sphere, was still active. And in the center, we found it, the beacon. It was a throne, a massive, complex chair of crystal and wire, surrounded by amplifiers that hummed with latent power. It was beautiful, and it was terrifying. "It is ready," Vane said, his metal fingers caressing a console. "It is designed to take a psychic mind, an astropathic mind, and amplify its signal. turn a whisper into a roar, a beacon. "We brought no astropaths," Hector said. "They are all dead." "We did not need one," Vane said, turning to me. His lenses were glowing with a cold blue light. "Astropaths are transmitters. They are weak. This device, it needs an anchor. It needs a navigator." I looked at the throne, and I understood. This was not a lighthouse. It was a sacrifice. It was a machine designed to burn a soul as fuel. "You knew," I said to Vane. "This was your plan all along." "The Omnissiah provides," Vane stated, devoid of emotion. "The Emperor's light was built on the sacrifice of 10,000 psychers a day. This is merely more efficient. It requires only one, a powerful one. Your mind, Lord Navigator, is already tuned to the warp. It is already a beacon, in its own small way. This machine, it will make you divine." Hector drew his pistol. "Heresy! You would murder him. We will not." "Hector, stop," I said. My voice was weak, but it carried. I walked towards the throne. I touched the cold crystal. I was dying anyway. The journey had broken me. My body was failing. My third eye was a raw, weeping wound. I was the last of my line on this ship, an old, broken man. But I was a navigator. My duty was to show the way. The Emperor had failed. The Imperium was dead. But humanity endured, and it needed a light, even a cold, heretical one. "If I do this," I asked Vane, "what will it do?" "It will consume you," Vane said for the first time with something like hesitation. "Your mind, your soul. It will be focused, amplified, broadcast. You, Ignatius Vane, will cease to be. You will become the signal." "Will they see it?" I asked. "In this sector? Yes," Vane said. "They will see you." I looked at Hector. "You have your orders, shipmaster. Once the signal is active, you will use it. You will return to Agrippina. You will tell them, the Vane light is lit. You will show them the way." "My lord, Ignatius." "No," he whispered. I smiled. A real smile, bloody and broken. "It is a navigator's duty, to the very end. Now, plug me in." They seated me on the throne. The metal was cold against my back. Vane's tech priests moved with hurried reverence, attaching cables to my skull, my spine, and to my third eye. "The activation will be painful," Vane said. "The machine will rewrite your soul." "I have seen the end of a galaxy, Magos," I rasped. "Do it." He nodded. He slammed his fist onto a rune. The pain was, I cannot describe it. It was not pain, it was unbeing. My entire life, my memories, my arrogance, my fears, they were shredded. My soul was ripped from my body, drawn into the crystal and focused. I screamed. I screamed with the force of a supernova. A cold, blue, agonizing scream. My physical body burst into flames, a husk of carbon. But I was a fire. I was the beacon. I was the light. My consciousness exploded. I was no longer Ignatius Vane. I was a direction. I was a point of stability in the raging chaos. I saw the entire sector, I saw the celestial arbitrator, a tiny mote of light, turning, its engines flaring as Hector began the jump home, his tears visible even to me. I saw Agrippina, besieged by an orc fleet, its people starving. I saw other ships, dark and drifting, their crews hopeless. And they saw me. On the bridge of a dozen stranded Imperial frigates, navigators jolted from their catatonia. Astropaths, driven mad by the silence, suddenly stilled. They opened their minds, their eyes. They did not see the warm golden light of the Emperor. They saw a cold, piercing, blue-white star, a beacon that screamed. It was not a song of hope. It was a defiant, agonizing roar of existence. It was not love. It was duty. It was my soul, stretched thin across 1,000 light years. This is the new reality. The age of the Imperium is over. The Golden Throne is silent. Terra is an island, lost to us. But here, in this small, forgotten corner of the galaxy, we have a new age. The age of ghosts. Hector returned. Vane began his work. He calls it the Logos Imperium, a new order based on this cold technological light. They are building more ships. They are searching for more Pharos devices. They are fighting back. They call the light the Vane light, or the Navigator's star. They make pilgrimages to this station, to the Aeterna Pharos. They worship the empty, charred throne. They pray to me. But I am not here. I am the signal. I am the pain. I am the scream that guides them home. The silence is gone, replaced by my voice, forever. My name was Ignatius Vane. I was a navigator, and now I am the way.